Hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar on the ACID regulation in Egypt. My name is Amir Rashad, and I'm the CEO and founder of Centersource Technologies, a tech company in Sweden focused on creating smart digital supply chain tools. I have personally worked extensively in the forestry industry and especially toward Egypt. For the forestry industry, we offer something called Timber Exchange, a supply chain and risk management cloud-based system, which covers many of the blind spots for sales, administration, and logistics departments. Because of our focus on technology and my own personal history with timber, and especially toward Egypt, I am glad to merge the two. And it's why we're hosting this webinar today. In this webinar, our in-house experts, Mrs. Mai Taha and Mr. Joaquin will make a presentation on the subject. After the presentation, we will have a FAQ session where we will go through the submitted questions, but we will also open the floor for questions from you. I will now leave the word over to Mrs. Mai.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Happy and glad that you are all joining us. My name is Mai Taha, Business Development Manager in Centersource. I have been working in shipping industry for about 10 years now in multiple countries. I worked in shipping lines and forwarders, in import, export, and custom clearance departments. I joined Centersource because I have a passion towards the innovations and the technologies that can really contribute to our industry. Today, I'm happy to introduce you to our new system, which is Egypt ACI system. And please allow me to start. This is our agenda for today. This is how we will proceed in steps. And for the beginning, I believe that all of us in some way or another now know about the system that is Egypt created by the platform, the unified platform, NAFISA, which is a unified platform where the governmental authorities in Egypt are connected to importer, exporters, shipping line, shipping agency, or all the trade partners, connecting them in one place, which is NAFISA, in order to achieve the system, to reach to the system, ACI system, through the ACID number, which we're gonna introduce in steps. But actually, which is governmental authorities in Egypt are involved in those procedures? Now, we are talking now about Central Bank of Egypt, General Authority Export-Import Control, Port Authorities, Trade and Industry Ministry, Tax Authorities, Customs. All these authorities in coordination with the new risk management system that NAFISA created to check the cargo that is coming to Egypt in order to achieve few important steps, few important goals. First is to expedite the procedures, the customs clearance procedures, to enhance the investment in Egypt. And the third thing is to minimize the unlifted and undefined cargo that is well known to happen in Egypt for some time. So, what is ACI system? We knew now that NAFISA is the name of the platform, and he created an ACI system. The ACI system where importers submit shipment details in coordination with exporters. NAFISA will check these details and make the decision to issue what is called the ACID number. The ACID number is at 19 digits, unified, unique number identifying imported shipments to Egypt. And here it is important to clarify that this system so far is focused on imported shipments. It is not applied to export yet. So, as we see, what is exactly the system will go? How are we gonna implement it? So because there is a bit of messy procedures in our minds, let us go step by step. First, by exporter. Exporter is the one who is going at first to create the CargoX account. And CargoX is the platform that is cooperating with NAFVISA in Egypt in order to submit electronic documents to Egypt. So, first of all, we will need to understand that the exporter will send the documents to the importer and the importer will submit it to NAFVISA. So exporter, after creating an account on CargoX, the second step is to make a verified account, because registration in CargoX is not enough to be able to send documents to Egypt. You need to have a verified account. And in order to verify your account, you have to go to 3 steps. You have to do the internal check, which means that after you create your account in CargoX, you will put the details of your company, your registration in the port of load country. You need to add the VAT number and a few other information if they are available, like the logo for the company, like more other identifiers like the European EORI. Those identifiers, although they are not really mandatory, but it will add a more verification to your company's account. We will go to the second step with the bank verification. And the bank verification means that you will go to CargoX billing cycle and buy some credits using your bank account under your name, under your company's name. The third is the registry check by a third party. And the registry check is carried out as well by CargoX, where they check the information you have been given to them in details, your registration, your details, in coordination with a third party, which they will need you to pay about $15 as a one payment fees. After you receive your verified account, CargoX will issue a CargoX ID number. Now, what is our exporter here role at Port of Load? He is actually need to focus on, at the beginning, on creating this CargoX ID number, or will keep it after the verification, and ensure that those quite clear information will be given to his importer. It is the exporter's company details, pro forma invoice, and the product details, to ensure that his importer have all this information clear. So here we go now with our importer. What is our importer will do? Importer now will need to make a NAFVISA account and obtain an e-token. And the e-token is an electronic signature that he can obtain from one of the places authorized in Egypt. It is Masr al-Muqassa or Egypt Trust, either one of them. and he can obtain his electronic token and start to do the procedures. Importer will start submitting the shipment details on Nafisa, and in order to have for Nafisa to submit or to issue the ACID number, the exporter registry that we just mentioned will be given to the importer, and he will start the procedure. Which information are needed to be added by the importer on Nafisa? Of course, by details. Importer details. Importer details, it will appear automatically because he already registered on Nafisa. So he just need to check it on Nafisa screen and confirm everything is fine. Go to the second step where he will proceed with exporter details. And here we go, we can use our CargoX ID. We will need the exporter type, and by exporter type, we mean is the exporter is a branch, a trademark, a factory. This as well, it needs to be added. Importer as well will have to add details of the shipment, which is purchase order date, number, or if it is not available, it is quite enough that you use pro forma invoice number or contract number. And the reason for that is that at the beginning of the procedure, Nafisa need to inform the customer, inform the exporter in particular, that we are combining this information to this particular shipment. So he will add as well invoice number, date and type, country of origin, port of load, and general description of goods. I'm attaching for you all here at the screen. Unfortunately, of course, it is in Arabic because it is subjected to importers, but I'm sharing it because I wanted you guys, all our attendees, to understand that this is the place we need to add CargoX ID number. And of course, the CargoX as the authorized chain, authorized platform dealing with Nafisa, and the exporter type, because this particular part was not really clear to a lot of our customers. The second step is, we mentioned that in order to obtain the ACID number, importer will add the details. The details are general details, which we mentioned in the previous slide. And now we will indicate as well the detailed information. The detailed information include invoice details and item details. Invoice details, it is the type and date, value, and currency of invoice and Incoterm. GS1 or product code, which can be replaced for those who are not having the GS1 code. It can be replaced with the part number or the item number. HAIS code and description. And by HAIS code, because we all know that it is the harmonized system, the 6 digits, international digits. Of course, this one will be used, but in a lot of import countries, including Egypt, it adds extra digits for what is called harmonized tariff schedule. So we add 4 more digits, and in Egypt, they are using those 4, so the total number is 10. And this number is the one that is needed to be added. Net weight and gross weight, and the weight unit, of course. The value of each item. This is the place as well. Unfortunately, as well, it is in Arabic. I'm sorry about that, but this is where you can add your tariff number, which we just mentioned. And what is the importer normally do is to add the 6 digits, and he can make a search, and then he can choose the actual product tariff number. Now the ACID number, at first, our importer will submit the request of the issuance of the ACID number. The authorities will check the details of the request received and see the possibility of the issuance, either by approval or refusal. Is it possible for refusal? Yes, but in 3 cases, this is what the authorities declared. Either it is a blacklisted exporter, and I believe that all of us know what this means, and a blacklisted importer, or prohibited cargo. And any other situation is not really available, so they will issue the ACID number with no problem. Once the ACID number is issued from the authorities, an email will be sent to importer, exporter, and the bank, if the bank is involved in the trade process. This is how for example, the exporter will receive the ACID number. As we see, it is clear information, importer details, exporter, and shipment data. And with a clear indication that those 3 numbers need to be added on all the shipping or the shipment documents. It is ACID number, importer taxation number, which is 9 digits, exporter number, which is combination, alphanumeric combination, as you see here in the example. What is our exporter will do at this particular moment after we receive the ACID number? He has to add the ACID number on his shipping documents, and he need to start the ACI filing on CargoX. In CargoX, it is indicated how you can do the ACI filing, and what is actually needed that you will have to go through the steps where you register with your accredited account, open the blockchain key, which is mainly, it is a number, a serial number that you will save on your computer, and reuse it when you enter again to CargoX to verify your account. And sorry, not verifying your account. Now you can, to start the ACI filing. You will choose each file that needed to be uploaded and start the procedure. The ACI filing from CargoX is cost $50 and $3 for each document that needs to be issued, to be submitted. The BL draft is needed, commercial invoice, and packing list. And it is very important to mention again that the 3 ACID elements should be mentioned on those documents: ACID number, exporter registration number, and importer taxation number. In our second here step, we will see the process as a whole. Exporter will make an ACI filing, prepare the documents, upload it, as we said, on our partner CargoX, and our partner, because CargoX is our partner. Now we are finalizing the procedures to cooperate with CargoX. He will do the transmission to NAFISA through the blockchain documents transmission. NAFISA will receive the exporter details. Importer will revise it, approve it using his e-token. Now, if he's willing to do the procedure of custom clearance, he can do so by using applying for the form 40, and to start the custom clearance even before the cargo arrives to Egypt. But it is an optional step. He can still wait for the procedure if he wants to arrival of the cargo. So, now, what is exactly the role of the shipping lines and forwarders here? Shipping lines are, by law, are asked to add the 3 elements that we mentioned before on the BL and to submit it to NAFISA. First, they will need to verify it, and the verification is needed to be either one by one or through a whole list that needs to be sent to NAFISA. NAFISA allowed the verification through electronic cooperation, and the third part is at the agency in Egypt. The shipping line agent in Egypt is required to make the manifest, to transmit the manifest to NAFISA, either by direct entry to the NAFISA or using the EDI system. This manifest transmission has to be done 48 hours before the vessel arrival. It is important as well because it was a little bit unclear to our customers when the exporter will submit the documents, when he can make the ACI filing. ACI filing is, from the exporter side, is allowed up till the vessel sails from the port of load. The information about 48 hours, it was a bit mixed up information. No, it is the 48 hours was mentioned by the authorities concerning the part that NAFISA will issue the ACID number within 48 hours from the submission of the importer for the request to issue the ACID number. So now we have 48 hours to issue our ACID number, and concerning the submission of ACI filing, it can be done until the vessel sails from port of load. We went through the procedures in general, and I'm happy to hear your comments and feedback. But Amir, can you please proceed?
Thank you very much, Mai, for a very interesting presentation indeed. Before we continue to the FAQ and also show some of the tools which automate this whole process for you, I would like to introduce my colleague Joaquin Knapp, who will introduce some of his work. Joaquin?
Yes, you can start my video if you'd like.
Sure.
All right.
So
thank you.
Oh, sorry.
All right. So thank you, Amir, and thank you, Mai, for the presentation. My name is Joaquin Knapp, and I have been studying supply chain and worked with logistics for quite a few years. And now I am working with product development here at Centersource. As Amir briefly mentioned earlier, we at Centersource have created many smart digital supply chain tools. And those can be utilized inside our so-called supply chain collaboration platform, where trading partners can manage international trade and logistics in an automated environment to save time and resources. Our latest smart tool is related to the ACI system, and its purpose is to simply facilitate ACI filing. We will now show you a short video of how the tool works in Timber Exchange, and I hope you all will like it. Feel free to play, Amir.
So that is our work with CargoX and the tools which we offer for the ACID process. Combined, our 80 smart tools are essentially a shared workspace for exporters, importers, and freight forwarders to increase accountability, transparency, and productivity, and remove many types of barriers, including especially language, because the platform is also available in Arabic. So the platform automates the whole ACID workflow from beginning until end, because the process starts by creating instructions for importers to submit to NAFESA. Because imagine if the importer creates a NAFESA and creates an ACID shipment, but with the wrong details. That means there will be a discrepancy later on, which is absolutely not good, of course. The platform also notifies counterparties of required actions and deadlines to ensure that no deadline is missed, which also is very sensitive in this situation, of course. And for forwarders and shipping lines, you can also verify the ACID elements and get reports on that. And because when you use the tools, you indicate who is the producer, the shipper, the importer, the cargo details, we can generate all the documents for you. And you can also add the ACID elements onto all the different documents. And we are actually also integrated with chambers of commerce in 8 countries, including Sweden. And after all this, you can send the documents to NAFESA via CargoX from inside the platform. So this means that with Timber Exchange, you don't need to work in multiple systems that are not synchronized. And most of all your most important processes and milestones are synchronized and consolidated in one digital space. So this lowers language barriers, means less chasing for you, less worries, of course, but most importantly, a more effective cooperation. And for those companies that are attending this webinar today, we have a very special surprise, actually. Submitting the fees to CargoX will be without charge. So all in all, it's possible to say that this allows the forestry industry to maintain a transparent and effective business relationship with Egyptian customers for the ACID system. So let's move on now to the FAQ. Mai, are you here? Are you with us?
Of course.
Wonderful. So the first question goes like this. We are a paper manufacturing company and our factories are located in Sweden, UK, and Finland. Our question is, when we register our company on CargoX, we would need to use multiple VAT IDs based on the location of our factories. However, on site, I assume they mean CargoX, we are only allowed to enter one address and one VAT number. Mai, what should be done in this case?
What should be done is that you have to create multiple accounts on CargoX, because as long as you have a multiple VAT IDs, registration address, so they will need to verify them all, because as you mentioned, it will be their names on the commercial invoice. If their names, each one of them will be mentioned on the commercial invoice. So in such case, you have to create multiple accounts on CargoX, because the verification will go one by one.
But Mai, is it true that this depends only on who is the seller?
It depends who is the seller exactly, which is his name on the commercial invoice. Because the main issue, the main document that Egyptian authorities are relying on is the commercial invoice.
Okay, so essentially this means then that depending on your organization, if it's centralized or decentralized selling, you need to take a decision on if you want to continue that or if you would like to centralize, basically.
Exactly. But it is good to mention that it is under discussion now with authorities in Egypt, because we are in continuous contact with them. they advised that they are now discussing the fact that they will allow to for the ACI filing to be shared with different entries. Like if I have a factory in UK and I'm shipping from Sweden and the documents are coming from somewhere else, the three of them can join the CargoX on the same ACI number and they can submit and make the ACI filing. But this list is still under discussion. It is not finalized by any means, not yet.
And this is also something which we want to highlight very, very much. So we have been working on the ACI research and functionality over the past 4 months, full-time essentially. And what's important to note is that the rules are updated regularly, and sometimes twice per week. So we work very, very hard to keep up to date with all the latest rules. So in order to update our clients on the latest developments, let's move on to the next question. Can we upload the draft BL on CargoX or an OBL which has a copy watermark on it so that the goods cannot be released with this BL? Mai, what do you think about that?
Of course, it is absolutely fine to upload the BL draft. No problem at all. And by any chance, no release of the cargo will be issued until the presentation of the documents, because up till the moment, the authorities in Egypt did not make a final confirm about submission the electronic documents, which means that original documents has to be presented. So no worries at all, and the draft BL is absolutely fine.
What exact documents must be submitted and before the vessel sail, and by how many hours?
The exact documents are BL draft, commercial invoice, packing list, indicated on them the three elements that we mentioned: ACID number, importer taxation number, exporter registration number. Those are the main documents that need to be sent by the vessel sailing from the port of load. The question arises here about the certificate of origin, phytosanitary, for example, for timber industry. All these documents, it can be submitted as a later stage. It doesn't really need to be done upon the vessel sail. The authorities gave a bit of window, no problem to be a little bit later, because those certificates can take a little bit longer to be issued. So it can be submitted again on the CargoX, because the ACI filing, it will not stop if you submit one or two. No, you can submit for example, the first three that we mentioned, and then you can make an addition to the ACI filing. So no problem.
So it's possible to submit multiple times throughout the ACI cycle, basically.
Yes, it is. No problem at all. Mm-hmm.
But for these two last documents, which are very important for the timber industry, of course, as you know, certificate of origin or Euro 1 and phyto, they need to be submitted to NAFESA before the vessel arrives, correct? Or is it okay after the vessel arrives in Alexandria, for example?
No. Of course, when we mentioned, let us clear it here again. So we said that the three documents it will be sent by the vessel sails from port of load, and they allowed a bit of window. So it means we are talking about a little bit later stage. So it doesn't mean that we will wait until the vessel arrives. It means it can be a little bit later stage. And to be clear about adding the three numbers on those certificates, authorities allowed them to be added on the draft of those documents by any electronic mean. So it make it easier to add it by any electronic way any software allowed to be added on those numbers on PDF drafts, and then you can upload them and make the ACI filing.
Then we have a question number 4, functionality, capabilities of the system, experience in providing services to exporters of sawn timber. It's a good question. So the capabilities of the system, you can see here, we cover everything from managing the deal pipeline, the shipments, negotiations, etc., booking and managing the freight, tracking responsibilities, tasks, issuing, drafting, and approving all the documents, tracking all the goods and shipments. We're integrated actually to 18,000 bulk vessels in the world, 60 container lines, and all major carrier delivery services, DHL, UPS, FedEx, etc. And we publish also a lot of industry or market data, let's call it, which covers industry news, trade statistics, production data, inventory data, container line reliability data, and also analytics on how your business and supply chain is performing. And this is available for the seller, his customer, and the nominated freight forwarder. And what's very important to clarify is that only the approved staff and the chosen counterparties can see the data. Nobody else can see it. And the experience, let's go back, and the experience. Today, we're a company of 30 staff, actually, and quite a lot of the higher management have experience in both forestry industry and in technology. So some of the people have been presidents of forestry associations, worked as sales directors for sawmills, worked in IBM and different IT companies. So it's a unique combination, and that is why we have worked so hard to create this. Because it's basically something that we wished that we would have when we were active in the industry. But that is a story for a different time on why it started and all that. So also to answer the question on what is the support available. So clients, they will have access to expert support and company-specific advice, not 24/7, but during working hours, let's say. And the tools, of course, which we went through, will automate the ACID process. It will generate all the shipping documents. It will also add the 3 data elements to the shipping documents. For freight forwarders, it will be possible to verify the ACID validity numbers. We're also working on a feature to get the reports to create the manifests, but this is not completed yet. But it is something we are working on. Of course, all the counterparties will see the milestones. Is the number requested? Is it added? Have the documents been sent? And finally, of course, to submit the documents. And not immediately now, but in the future, there is some idea to offer actually back office support services. For those that are interested or if you have more questions, you can write to me personally, amir@centersource.io, or info@timber.exchange. Let's move on in the FAQ. Mai, is it mandatory to use the NAFEZA application as part of the ACI rule?
Yes, of course, it is for importer. It is not for the exporter, it is for the importer.
But it's mandatory for him. He cannot avoid it somehow.
No chance. He has to create the account, get the electronic token, and start the procedures through the NAFEZA.
Does the ACID regulation apply to any goods or merchandise containerized and carried by ULCCs in transit on the Swiss Canal?
Okay, so the question didn't really indicate, is it a direct transit or indirect transit? So if it is a direct transit, so ACI system will not be applied on it, but if it is indirect transit, it will be applied. The ACI regulation will be applied to indirect transit.
So one question there, do you mean, for example, that if the cargo is simply being transshipped onto another container ship, that then it's, or if it's re-exported?
If it is,
just to clarify.
Okay, if the direct transit, it means that it will be redirected from one vessel to the other, managed by the carrier. He will hold the responsibility for it. Otherwise, it will be indirect, which means the authorities, they will be involved in it, or the warehouses can be involved as well. So in such case, ACI has to be implemented as a regulation.
Interesting, thank you. What are all the required declarations that need to be in the specific document? You partly answered this before, but maybe if you can go through it quickly again.
Yes, of course. It is, we need to declare the three verified elements, which is the ACID number, importer taxation number, and exporter registration number.
The HS codes to use on the documents for the following species: redwood, whitewood, and larch. What are they?
Of course, I have those one. I can send it in the question, the questions and answers book right away now. We have it, but just to be 100% sure that we contacted the authorities in Egypt, and they said that they will reconfirm. That I will write it down in the chat box, no problem, for our customer who requested this question.
Because actually, when I was researching this, I actually found two different HS codes for larch. So that was a bit interesting. So, but that is something that we will clarify shortly.
Yes, of course.
And now we open for questions from the audience. We have received two questions from Mr. Thomas. His first question is, what will be the bank's role in all of this? When or if this new system will be in use?
Okay. The bank will receive, if he is involved in the transactions, he will receive the ACID number as well, and the bank will be need to issue what is called in Egypt Form 4, and Form 4 is an obligatory for the custom clearance procedures. It will be issued to the importer. This form contains all the details about the shipment, the importer details, and it will expedite the procedures, and it will not by any chance issued to the importer to proceed with the custom clearance unless he showed a receipt of payment of transaction paid to the exporter. So the bank is involved by issuing this Form 4, which is controlling the process and confirming the rights for both exporter and the importer.
Interesting. Then a second question. Have you done any estimate of how much using this system will cost to an exporter per shipment? That's a very good question as well. So, because it's so many different tools, of course, using the ACI tools will not be more expensive than using CargoX, but that is only using the ACI tools. However, to use all the other tools like the analytics, the tracking, all these other extra parts, that will come at a slightly higher cost. And that structure is tiered depending on, so you as an exporter pay, but you can invite your companies free of charge. And then you as an exporter, you pay a fixed sum depending on how many staff, how many teams or factories or offices that you create, how many bulk vessels or containers you're tracking, and so on. So there are different parameters. So please feel free to get in touch so that we can discuss which tier or which package might suit you. And of course, it's possible to change packages as well.
I just write down the HS codes for the timber that mentioned from our customer. Here are the details, and as we mentioned before, it contains the 6 international digits plus the 4 added digits by Egyptian authorities. And again, authorities in Egypt promised that they will confirm and come back to us. Please have it is in the chat box.
Well, we have some more questions from Mrs. Evia Malnaka. Regarding the BL draft, usually we exporter are receiving it only after vessel is loaded and vessel has left loading port. How we proceed in this case, we cannot submit BL draft before vessel sailing out. We are based in Riga, Latvia.
Only after the vessel is loaded and vessel has left. Okay. Now, to be sure of one thing, now by law, all the shipping lines now are informed about the new regularities about Egypt, and they are by law has to send to Egypt the list of all cargo that is going to Egypt with the details of the ACID number, the importer taxation, exporter registration that we mentioned. It will be on the details of each BL that is going to Egypt. And this has to be sent before the vessels leaves the port. So by anyhow, it will be available with the shipping line. So what you need to ask is the shipping line to give you that it's only a draft, and they have to give it to you because it will be available to them, and they will by any chance they cannot submit those details to the port without the numbers. So all you need is to have just a draft ensuring that those 3 elements are there. This is what the authorities are looking for.
We have a new question also from Mr. David Jansson, a good old friend. Thank you for attending. So his question is, can a forwarding agent register to CargoX and send the shipment details on behalf of the exporter?
Actually, this question was raised to the authorities, and it is in discussion with the CargoX team, our partner CargoX, and actually they said it is possible, it is allowed, and they are in the process of finalizing it to make it live to be available. So it is, yes, it is approved. I'm not 100% sure if it is now available on CargoX, but it is definitely approved as an idea.
Yes, I speak to CargoX regularly, and as far as I remember, in the last meeting, this feature has not been built yet, but it is in progress. Then we have a new question from Mr. Wagi. VAT number is mandatory for verification at CargoX. What if there was no VAT number for an exporter due to being established in a free zone area? That's a brain teaser, actually.
Okay. Okay. For that's a new question to me. So for any question that is not, I'm not gonna really say information, because every piece of information that we mentioned today is absolutely 100% sure and as updated as per the authorities mentioned till yesterday. So I have quite an idea, but I prefer to be 100% sure. So what we're gonna say is that we can keep your question, your contact, get back to the authorities and get back to you as soon as possible. You can still be in contact with us and we will read back to you with the answer.
Exactly. So Mr. Wagi, please send us an email and we will keep you updated. Any other questions, thoughts, or ideas? Mr. Ahmed Ibrahim, can we add the ACI number written by hand on the document?
No, absolutely not. This is totally unacceptable, unfortunately. It has to be added by an electronic way or an addition to the BL draft, or simply you can use this, our Timber Exchange platform, we can make it easier for you. That's simple. But by hand, no, unfortunately, it can be.
Thank you for attending, Ahmed. Nice to see you. Any questions maybe from the shipping lines or forwarders present here today? Mr. Sakshi Basser is wondering if there will be a recorded session. Yes, there will be. Thank you for your questions. It's very much appreciated.
I just hear, yeah, please, sorry for interruption. Please, go ahead.
So next Monday, we are publishing a guide, which we've been working very hard for a very long time on, which is on the best practices, examples, scenarios, and essential facts. And this will be available to Timber Exchange clients when you sign up for a 12 months contract with the promo code ACID 2021. And of course, we've gone through before that you get expert support and the tools to automate this process. But I also want to point you in the direction of what we offer completely open and publicly. We really, really care about the industry. So we publish a lot of news, statistics, inventories, shipping line performance data on how the global market is performing, which helps you in navigating global markets and taking decisions. And we also have a podcast. In the most two recent podcasts, we had one with two leading Swedish mills to discuss the Asian timber markets. And last week, we published a new episode on the MENA timber markets with some of the largest importers in Morocco, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. Take a listen, and I hope that you will find it very interesting. And just to reiterate, using ACID on the ACID functionality only on our platform is free of charge for the companies attending today. That was everything for this time. Thank you very much for listening in. We really hope that you learned something useful. You can reach us on my@centersource.io and info@timber.exchange. Mai, do you have anything that you would like to add?
Just one adding part that our report that Amir just mentioned is gathering all other questions that we received for the last 6 weeks, last 2 months from all our customers. It is all gathered and mentioned in details in our report. So it will be very beneficial to have a look on it. It will add more light to the new system. Thank you so much for your attendance.
Thank you indeed. Hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.